Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. Now, a bit of a virus update that we've been doing regularly. We're now at over 210,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus and there have been more than 8,700 deaths globally. We've seen a big spike coming out of Italy with the amount of deaths that they've had in the past 48 hours. And it is expected to continue. Now, the reasoning behind that they're quoting is that the aging population in Italy is the predominant amount of people that are actually getting infected, and there are usually underlying illnesses with those that age bracket. So we are expecting to see more deaths, obviously, and more infections to come, regardless of all the lockdowns that are going on globally at the moment. Now, having a look at what's gone on overnight, one of the big events has been about Qantas and Jetstar, an aviation company based in Australia. Now, they are suspending all international flights from the end of March. Domestic flight travel is going to be cut by about 60%. We're seeing A380s, B787s, and a whole other host of their fleet being grounded. And in addition to that, the biggest part of the news was that they're going to be standing down 2/3 of their workforce, of which has an estimated 30,000 employees. Now, the CEO of Qantas has been quoted saying that periods of leave without pay for some employees are going to be inevitable. Now, they've also said that long service leave and holiday pay can be used and that they have that in reserve for those employees that have it, but for many of them to expect not to be receiving a paycheck in the near future. And it will be going on for an extended period of time, as we're all hearing at the moment. Now, the overnight news that we also had was that EU has increased travel restrictions with no foreign nationals allowed into certain countries within the EU. Australia, groups of 100+ people have been banned and they have advised for zero travel to occur. The US has proposed to have a $1 trillion stimulus package. However, it still needs to go through the Senate to be approved, and this stimulus package will be going directly to the consumer, with an estimated $1,000 per person going out into the economy. Now, we've also had the ECB announce a $750 billion stimulus package, and it is likely to be starting to occur. This is basically a part of their phase of quantitative easing. We've had WTI oil touch down at $20 per barrel. It is currently sitting at about $23 per barrel. And we've also had Brent come down significantly as well. And we've had a few pleas from some of the other OPEC nations, such as Iraq, who are pleading for a meeting to try and see if they can get the price raised on that. The S&P 500 has hit limit up and limit down in the same day. So if you recall when we talked about the circuit breakers and how when we get 5% or greater of trading, there are restrictions put in place where 15 minutes of trading will be paused. And if it goes further again, at 13%, the same thing again. And if it hits 20%, then it is close of market for the day. So we've seen that occur twice overnight. First it opened with a rise and then the fall ensuring afterwards, putting a limit down to occur. Now we've also had gold moving further down. It's currently sitting at around the $1,485 per ounce mark. And this is kind of a speculative issue. Usually you would see gold prices rise when you have other markets starting to fail. Now, the reason that we're seeing behind it is that it's also tied heavily to inflation. So as inflation levels drop, then we see that gold also goes with it. So keep an eye on what's going on with gold. It is an interesting one and is a little bit of out of the ordinary. This is not something that we've seen in the last 10, maybe even 20 years, where the inflation and the value of gold have coincided with one another. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the future and what we can do with it for trading. Now, moving on from that, I just want to show you a chart of WTI and the price behind me. You can see where it's sitting now at about $23 and how far it really came down. Now, the bottom of those spikes are hitting heavily into the $20 per barrel mark. I've also got one of the Australian dollar. Now, the Australian dollar has also moved down overnight and is currently sitting in the 58-cent range. So, where are we expecting to see it go further from here? I do personally believe, and this is an opinion of mine, that the Australian dollar will continue to go down. I would be anticipating to see a 55-cent mark hit at least once potentially a little bit further. So I am very much on the short side of the Australian dollar, but that's going to be dependent. Now, we do have news coming out later today about Australian monetary policy. So we're going to check that out very shortly. I'll give you an update this afternoon about it as it comes out to me. Now, for the news ahead, at 4 p.m, we have the Reserve Bank of Australia, Governor Lowe, making a unscheduled news announcement. Now, we're expecting to see a rate cut. And the reason for this is being that we've just seen the US do an emergency one. There was talk of Australia cutting their rate again. So I am anticipating that we may end up seeing that and possibly a little bit of stimulus coming towards the economy as well through quantitative easing and we might even find out a little bit more about what methods they're planning on using to do some of that QE. 7:30 p.m. tonight, we have the Swiss National Bank delivering some monetary policy statements. They may do a cut as well, so that will be good to watch, especially if you like trading the chef. We have at 11:30 p.m. Canadian employment figures. Now, I'm not anticipating for these to go down. We've just seen this morning the Australian employment figures go up and have an improvement. Now, the reason for that, though, is, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, is that those employment figures are a month old. They are from last month, not from the current standing that we are in now. So it will be something to keep an eye on, especially in the future. Whilst we've had a rise, we've also just heard that we're going to have potentially 20,000 employees without jobs out of Qantas, and I'm sure very many more are to come. Now, if you've been on the streets of Sydney recently, it does feel eerily quiet. Although it's not in total lockdown, there are much less economic activities occurring on the ground. Now, one for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a bank holiday in Japan, and so it may see some different volatility, especially if you trade the dollar yen. However, with the extremes of volatility that we've been seeing already, I doubt that's really going to impact too much. I anticipate that we're still going to see some wild swings happening tomorrow as well. But we'll have a look at that tomorrow, and that's for another time. Now, of course, if you have any questions about today's video, feel free to send me an email at talktoal@acy.com, and like and subscribe the video so you can get more great content from us in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.